When we hear about apartheid, people talk about the Group Areas Act. They talk about the Immorality Act. These are things which are often brought up as examples of just how evil apartheid was. It separated people into neighborhoods. It separated them across cultural and ethnic barriers so that they couldn't marry. There were all these things that were so evil and wicked, and we look back on it now, and it's clear to us that they must have been evil and wicked people.
I think that if you look at the narrative that is being used today to justify all of these so-called restorative justice laws, then there's two things that are mostly mentioned. One was about Bantu education. The other one is the question concerning land. If we look at what happened in 1913, many decades before apartheid started, this was under the time of Louis Botha, and it was basically still Britain governing South Africa through proxy. And the Group Areas Act, what it basically did was it stopped any sale of land in the areas that were black controlled from being sold to white and in many cases also Jewish landowners. And it also stopped any area in the white area from being sold to black individuals. It basically just said, here's a split. You're not allowed to buy any land in our area, and you're not allowed to buy any land in their area, and so on and so forth. And the reason why this actually happened was not because they wanted to exclude black people from owning land. It was because there was a very rapid pace of black chieftains selling their land to investors, or yes, mostly European investors, especially concerning the fact that there was now all these prospecting happening. There was a lot of money flowing into South Africa from Europe, mostly Rothschild money by that time, because at that time the Rothschild family was it was the richest family in the world, and they had so much money to spend, and they thought they were going to make so much money out of South Africa. But in any case, that's not the case anymore today. But so all of this money was flowing in here, and all of these people were just starting to buy up the land from the black chieftains in order to prospect, in order just to hold on to this land as an investment for if maybe something happens in the future where this land becomes valuable, or just to farm, because the best agricultural land in the country has always been in the black homelands. I made a tweet about this.
Just hang on. I want you to just explain that, because this is something which to some people will sound like absolute nonsense. When they created the Bantustans, you can give us the history of how that was decided and why those areas were cordoned off. The popular opinion and the general line that is towed by the press and by most academics today, and they never challenged on this, is that the Bantustans were the really terrible parts of South Africa that were unworkable. We needed to push black people in there. The government was of the opinion that those were the areas that they should be put in and forgotten about.
I just switched here so you can see on the screen. It's a tweet that I've made. I've had this map that shows the arable soils for rain-fed agriculture, meaning basically any agriculture, because the only other type of agriculture is irrigation-fed agriculture. But you can't farm any animals on irrigation, and irrigation is really not a large-scale operation that you can do anywhere unless there's rivers and lots of water. If you look at these maps, you'll see that the areas in which the Bantustans was later made correlates perfectly with the vast majority of the country's high potential and moderate potential agricultural land, especially in the Eastern Cape. You'll see here in the Transkei, which is the orange area, that there's this little cookie bite that's taken out of the Transkei. And then if you look next to it on the map of arable soils, you'll see that exact cookie bite is exactly where the area is that is not suitable for agriculture. Now the question comes, what is the reason for this? Because everyone thinks that the Bantustans was given to the black people. Like, this is yours, you can have this because it's crap and we'll take the good stuff for ourselves. Yeah. But it was never given to them. That was just the areas that they settled in. That was the areas where black tribes actually had land before the 1913 Land Act. Much later, Hendrik Verwoerd actually expropriated a lot of land from white farmers to give it back to the Bantustans, and that's all the land that was sold before the 1913 Native Land Act. And he said he wants to fully restore all the land that they had before they started selling them off. So he expropriated the land from white farmers mostly and gave it back to the Bantustans. to get back to why that is so and why this area, which is by far the best agricultural area in South Africa, was then within the Bantustans, it's just because they settled there because they didn't have the technology to actually survive anywhere else. 60% of South Africa's surface is desert or semi-desert. You cannot, on large scale, survive in the desert. You know, the San people did, the Bushmen did, because they usually lived in very small groups, which is basically a family of 8 or 10 people, never bigger than that. And they got a lot of their water from wherever there was some oases, or they would get it from, you know, just like these little watermelons that grow natively in the Karoo, like kukumakrankas and stuff. But on a large scale, if you have like a semi-agrarian society or subsistence agrarian society, which most Bantu peoples were, it's impossible to survive there. You need water, because if you don't get a lot of water to have everyone and your animals drink, you'll die. And the same thing goes for other areas of the country, which is not in that western half that is desert or semi-desert, but in the Highveld, for example, the area, you know, to the east of Johannesburg, Mpumalanga today, also large parts of the Free State is grasslands. You also can't survive on the grasslands or the steppes without Western technology. There's a lot of rain, but there's very little water sources. If you want to have water in these areas, you're going to have to drill a well, maybe have a windmill pumping the water up so you can have a constant supply of water. But without it, there's no way that you can survive. The Bantu tribes never developed the technology of digging a well. They simply didn't even know that if you dig a well, you can get water under the soil. They didn't understand the concept behind it. When they came across natural wells by accident, they didn't understand why the natural well was there and why it existed, or why there was water at the bottom of the pit. And some of them used these wells, and then they would exploit it, and then the well would dry up because they would use all the water, and they wouldn't know that, okay, now we just need to dig another well a few 100 meters from here. They would just move on to another place. And it might be very politically incorrect to say these things, but it's simply the case. Without the technology that was brought here by Europeans, that land was just completely inhabitable for primitive societies. And this is why they stayed in the areas that were the best agricultural areas, because the areas that had the most water obviously correlates with the areas that are the best for agriculture. That should be obvious to anyone watching.
And you're saying that it was the apartheid government's decision, and they actually had to expropriate white people who owned farms in those areas to leave that territory to the people who had already settled there and were working that land as much as they could.
Yes, the apartheid government expropriated. I would lie if you give you the exact amount, but it was quite a significant portion of what would later become the Bantustans were expropriated from white farmers.
So, Willem, I mean, that sounds to me like if you're in the genocide business, that's a pretty bad strategy. You know, we're constantly told about the fact that the land was taken, that people were ruthlessly oppressed, that it was a genocide, people were killed off. Clearly, some of this is just not true. Clearly, some of this, when you inspect the actual detail of what was going on in the early 1900s, it would be abundantly evident to anybody that some of these policies could be regarded as quite progressive and forward-thinking, and certainly trying to marry what was there before and what kind of civilization was in existence with where the country was looking to go. And obviously, Black people were very much factored into that.